the channel. This is my first video, so I'll give you a brief introduction as to what I'm going to do here and what this channel is. So I'll be providing my almost daily, I'll try to do it daily, pre-market price action markups to prepare myself for the next day's trading. So this will be using SMC, liquidity, ICT type style price action analysis. So where I'm going to start with always will be the DXY and then EU. For now, EU will be the only FX pair that I'll be analysing on the channel. Possibly in future I'll add more, but this mostly reflects my own trading. I mainly trade EU. So it won't be so much formed as a learning channel or anything, an education channel or anything like that. This will just purely be my analysis, and hopefully it could help a few people along the way if you're new to trading. And yeah, so let's get started. Today is Sunday the 19th of Feb. So what I like to do is, so we're here on the weekly, I like to mark out the main key liquidity points. So previous weekly highs, lows, previous daily highs and lows, session highs, swing highs, etc. But first off, I'll start off with the obvious. Previous weekly highs. Have templates for each of those to make things quicker. So I don't over analyze the weekly. However, it's good to have a look at what's happened and where price could be heading. So we've obviously closed out with a doji. If we look over to the left, we can see what could be called as a weekly order block. Swept liquidity to the left, caused an imbalance and created this leg here. It's pulled back to that point after sweeping liquidity on the left here, which was a swing low, you could say. So that liquidity swept, but now we're back up into this weekly order block. I won't mark it out because it is a large piece of data. I'll probably just do something on the daily to cover that. Now here on the daily chart we will get an overlap. I don't mind, you can rename this to previous weekly high and previous daily high. You can just do some sort of edit here. And that way you know. Separately I'll add previous daily low. And those are, the main liquidity points you can look out for as, proper key higher time frame liquidity points. Now, again, here's a daily ob that we could go down to. You see price is currently respecting this. And I may refine these further later on lower time frames, because it's covering such a wide area and I'm not trading on the higher time frames, so it may be a bit too much to cover. So down into the 4 hour. I mostly mark up DXY for its correlation with EU, of course, for those that don't know. And I'll explain that further later on once we're done marking it up. So you can see we're in this daily POI. And what I'm going to do here, just so it's not covering too much of an area and we can keep an eye on the 4 hour, I'll reduce this down to the 4 hour imbalance or fair value gap. me change the name for H. So far we've rejected this. I'll even use the fib just to keep an eye, because we know that 50% of imbalances can be respected quite highly. We haven't quite reached 50% yet, so I'll keep an eye on it with that. So here we have our 1 hour. I'll mark out the leg first before any POIs, just so you can see it's quite clear the swing points of the leg. So it's premium discount. We're currently sitting at a 1 hour order block. We've tested it on the Friday. We can also see we have a 1 hour fair value gap and order block up here. Also, as you might have noticed if you're familiar with ICT's learnings, order blocks are usually the down candles before the up. I'm not always so concerned with that. I'd prefer if it is. However, this was the last candle. It swept liquidity, caused an imbalance. So I use this as the order block. I'm not too concerned about whether it's a bearish or bullish candle at this point. But anyway, back to DXY. We can see this is currently being respected on the 1 hour so far. So we'll see how it opens up to next week, and we can see this fair value gap at the top here. So you would think there's a chance, if this is respected, we're going to pull back into premium. The POI in premium is here. The reason why I've boxed out the imbalance first is because it could respect the imbalance. It doesn't have to come up to the order block up here. So if it violates that order block, then I can just move this. That's fine. So that's me done with DXY. Don't want to get too much into detail just yet on that. We'll move on to EU. So up to the weekly, same as DXY. We'll repeat that same process, marking out previous weekly high, which will be this current weekly candle, as the market isn't open yet. Previous weekly low. Remember, we aren't exactly trying to trade from these areas, however they are important areas of liquidity where the market could turn. Again, you can see here where previous weekly order block was respected, or is currently being respected on EU. Rejection, nice rejection candle into that, and since then we've had, bearish outlooks. So on the daily, I'm not sure what this line is. We'll mark out previous daily high, previous daily low, so we'll just edit that instead. So points to look out for on the daily. We can see not too far above price action we've got this daily fair value gap, which has been tapped into, but not really tested, so this isn't mitigated just yet in my opinion, so we'll keep that on our radar for the future. We've also come down and tested a daily order block here. Again, I may refine this further if need to on a lower time frame. Let's zoom in a little. So you can see there's a small fair value gap here, imbalance, which is why I used this as the order block this time. We've already mitigated this one, so it's of no concern to me. Now again, it's a fairly big area, so I'm going to refine this down on the 4 hour just to make it a bit less extreme. Right, so far so good. Again, you can see where we've just dipped down into this with a low test. So far it's respected. Again, I'll use the fib just to keep note of where the 50% mark is, because we have not yet mitigated 50% of this imbalance, and we may do before heading up further. We have a 4 hour leg here from this swing high that swept liquidity to the left, made a new low, and I think that's everything at the moment that we need on the 4 hour. Right. So sometimes I like to do this as well to show where the most recent sweeps of liquidity is. So how I'll do that is with a line here, change that to an X. I usually do that after liquidity has been swept. So even though this, you could argue, is an order block, at the time I would have had it as an order block, it swept it, though it's still closed within it. So for me the order block's still valid, but I just keep in mind with the X that it swept liquidity there. So that's buy side liquidity. So it may now search for the sell side liquidity and come back down into a discount. For me this will be the new leg, because that high was broken even though it was only swept. I'll mark out this leg. 1 hour leg, 4 hour leg. We're currently in premium of both. I mostly trade within the 1 hour legs, but I have them both marked out here just in case. I'll mark out this 1 hour fair value gap too, just as an area of interest. Not necessarily going to trade it, but you could probably expect some sort of pullback or support here. Have a quick look at the 15 to see if there's anything of interest. 15 is very close to the hourly anyway, so I would only really care once I get into the intraday and I want to execute. Right, so that's all done, and I'll quickly go over what I can expect over at least the next coming days or day. Just giving a look at the DXY and the EU. So I've put them here side by side so you can see. Let me put this so you can see clearly. It's POY on DX on EU over here still. Obviously this pair is negatively correlated, so I think what I can expect from Monday's price action would be we swept liquidity to the left, there is a previous daily high, of course, right here. So there's immediate buy side liquidity here. We could expect price to go lower following the bearish trend which it's been in now for a little while. So we can see the trend it's in. It's not a great trend if we go back to the daily, in the sense of it's quite consolidated here, but on the lower time frames which we'll be trading on, there is the lower lows being made. Be wary, obviously have just come out of a 4-hour POI, but we've not yet broken structure to the upside, so I'm not expecting EU to, I'm not looking at longs on EU heading into Monday. So back to the correlation here now, we can see that DXY is in its buy side ob. If it respects this, we can expect higher prices on the dollar, which means EU would go down. So what I would be looking into is shorts. If I can get into shorts here, at least down until this area, which should coincide with DXY reaching this area, and we'll see how well it's respected there on either side. This is where DXY is super useful, because if we was at this 1-hour POI and I wanted to trade short, but DXY was still up here, it still had more sell side liquidity to go for. You know, the chances of this holding while this still has room to go down is lower. So the fact that they're both at their 1-hour POIs is a good sign for me to go short, because if DXY is going long, I can go short on EURUSD. So again, this is not an area I'm just going to short immediately from. We still need our lower time frame price action, we need our break of structures, but this is my outlook into next week. So I will immediately be looking for shorts on Monday. I'll be looking for some buy side liquidity to be taken and some breaks of structure. So I hope you enjoyed this analysis and you've digested the process, and if you're new to trading, you've learned something, or if you're new to this style of trading, hopefully it's helped. Feel free to suggest anything, give any feedbacks and comments. If you liked anything on the video and want to support the channel, subscribe. It would be really appreciated. If there's anything I've forgotten that I may have marked out, not explained, also let me know in the comments. Thanks.